Well, it's pouring outside and I'm being forced to take Overdrive indoors. Not that I'm complaining, because it was almost touching 40 degrees here in the capital and now it's down to a cool 23. But enough about the weather, let's talk about the show. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. Last week we brought you the Maruti Ertiga. It's been designed to give the Toyota Innova nightmares. Will it succeed or not? Only time will tell. But this week we decided to bring together the Mahindra Xylo and the Toyota Innova. Remember, we'd done a comparison of both these SUVs 3 years ago, but since then both of them have been given a makeover. So Bert brings you the Xylo versus the Innova in this latest comparo.
At the recently concluded Auto Expo in New Delhi, we've seen a lot of interest and we expect a lot of movement in the MUV segment in 2012. Several new players, especially Maruti, Nissan and General Motors, want to introduce their version of the MUV to the Indian consumer. Which is why I guess Mahindra, who is one of the dominant players in this segment, felt a little threatened and felt the need to refurbish and to a significant extent re-engineer the Xylo. The cosmetic changes on the Xylo make it more appealing than before. The previously obnoxious front grille has now been replaced with a much more pleasing unit, with the Mahindra logo now resting cleanly on the restyled bonnet. The clear lens headlamps add to the sleek new look, and the front bumper now gets a black plastic extension that gives the wheel arches more flair. In profile, the floating roof looks good. And on the whole, the new Xylo now looks more polished and attractive than its previous model. The most significant change in the new Xylo is its engine. Now the M-Eagle engine that powered the last generation Xylo, that's been replaced by the mHawk engine that was previously also used in the Scorpio. Now it's a smaller engine, it displaces 2.2 liters, but it's got significantly better power and torque characteristics. It makes 120 PS of max power, which is more than before, but it also makes a phenomenal 280 Newton meters of torque, which is hugely more than the M-Eagle engine. So this of course means you get better performance and efficiency. But on the flip side, I'm doing about 120 kilometers an hour, and that means the engine's spinning at about 3000 RPM. And I can hear this engine inside the cabin. It is very audible, and that only means over longer distances that can get very tiring. The Xylo clocks 13.7 seconds to reach 100 kilometers per hour. That makes it around 4 seconds quicker than the Innova, but also 2 seconds quicker than the Scorpio, which has the same engine. It's in fact even quicker than it was in its previous avatar. Even when it comes to efficiency, the Xylo reports a higher overall mileage of 12.5 kilometers per litre compared to the Innova's 11.8. There's a new gimmick in this new Xylo, and that's the voice command system, which does a lot of interesting things. For instance,
command please.
Headlights on.
Headlamps on.
And there, you have the lights on.
Command please.
Wipers on.
Wipers on.
This is an incredible party trick. It's just a brilliant system. It works very nicely. And most of all, it understands Indian dialects. On the ride and handling front, not much in the Xylo suspension has been changed. Despite the new engine, the suspension hasn't been tweaked or tuned much. Ride comfort? This is a comfortable MUV to drive. However, there is a bit of bounciness in the suspension. But load it with a full complement of passengers. Have at least 4 people sit inside this cabin and the suspension settles down nicely. It's a little more comfortable, it's a little more stable, and that brings me to the handling. High-speed stability is perfectly fine at speeds of 120 to 130 kilometers per hour. But any faster than that, and you do sense the body roll sort of reducing the confidence in the handling ability of the Xylo. On a brighter note, the steering, it's very precise, it's very direct. I quite like it. It's nicely weighed, gives it that amount of self-assurance that you need. Now Mahindra aren't the only ones to feel threatened, and Toyota, who are the segment leaders, well, they're sensing the impending pressure as well, which is why the Innova has gone under the knife too. A quick look at the refreshed Innova and you see that the teardrop shaped headlamps are sleeker than before. The front grille now gets 3 horizontal slats instead of the 2 before, and the air dam has now been flipped vertically as opposed to its previous shape. All of this gives the front a lower stance than before, whereas minimalistic changes are seen in profile and in the rear. On the whole, the new Innova maintains its utilitarian design, but it does look fresh. The interiors of the Innova, well, there's a lot less clutter inside this cabin. It isn't very crowded and therefore it feels a lot more spacious, it feels a lot more roomy. However, Xylo's interior as well, it's a lot more feature rich. That's not to say the Innova doesn't have all the creature comforts that you would require. It's just that the Xylo, well, it's got a lot more of those party tricks. And while this cabin, well, the atmosphere inside this cabin is a lot more luxurious, is a lot more classy and refined, to a small extent, the Xylo is still a much more fun place to be within. Even though Toyota has worked on the styling aspect of the Innova, the engine hasn't changed. It retains the same 2.5-litre diesel. It produces a maximum power of 102 PS and maximum torque is 200 Nm. Mechanically, the Xylo is still superior to the Innova, but here's where the Innova really makes a difference. You just don't get this car-like feel in the Xylo. The Xylo still feels like an MUV. Whereas the Innova, well, she's superbly comfortable to drive. And be it in any parameter, this just feels so much more like a car. Where ride quality and handling is concerned, the Innova feels a lot more plusher than the Xylo. It doesn't have that springy, bouncy feel like the Xylo. With regards to handling, the Innova feels more car-like in its behavior. It feels more fluid, much easier. The steering on the Innova requires less effort, and that makes it comfortable to drive both in the city and on the highways. It's also pretty composed at speed, and the only grouse that I have with this car and with the comfort aspect is that the engine of the Innova, well, it gets louder, it gets a lot more gruff as the speeds and RPM increases. So, which one's better, the Xylo or the Innova? Well, the Xylo's new mHawk engine is much superior. It's got better performance, it's got better efficiency, it's quieter in operation, and there are a lot more features within the Xylo, and all of it is 1.5 lakh rupees cheaper than the Innova. But then the Innova is worth every bit of the additional 1.5 lakh rupees you pay. It feels more car-like. The fit and finish within that cabin and everywhere else is much superior, and so is the attention to detail. And then we've driven both these MUVs extensively over the last 3 years. And though the last time these two were compared, we did say that the Xylo was superior to the Innova. In hindsight, I must admit that the Innova, well, it's made a lasting impression.